All right, we're going to call this meeting of the Transportation Highways Military Affairs Committee to order. Donna, can I get a roll call, please?
Representative Banks.
Absent.
Representative.
Oh, you know what? He's excused. He's excused. He let me know.
Representative Geringer.
Here.
Representative Larson. Representative McCann. Representative Nicholas.
Absent.
Representative Posey, I believe, is presenting to another committee. So
Okay, that works. He's
excused.
excused.
Representative Tarver.
Here.
Representative Wiley.
Here.
Chairman Brown.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Donna. My committee's making fun of me up here because we start on time. God forbid, guys, you know? Representative Larson, the floor is yours, good sir. Looks like we've got House Bill 179 in front of us. If you can walk us through that bill and the impetus behind that, I'd appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you. Along with House Bill 179, I think you have a handout that will be important for you to follow along there. If you look on that handout, Mr. Chairman, you'll see four areas kind of that have some acreage marked on them. The parcel of property that we'll be talking about in this bill is the one that says 31.1 acres. Does that make sense, Mr. Chairman? So, Mr. Chairman, this has been a conversation that has been taking place between the Department of Transportation and Fremont County representatives, legislators for probably 10 plus years, in that their facility in Lander is too small. I mean, currently they can't keep their equipment there. And if you've been to Lander, it's right there at the junction where you go to Riverton. And so we've been looking for other acreage that we could allow YDOT to put their facilities in Lander at. Worked for a number of years with them in looking at various sites. We continue to come back to the property that's owned by the state that is assigned, if you will, to the Wyoming Life Resource Center. So if you also look on this map, you'll see to the north of those tan lines is the campus for the Wyoming Life Resource Center. When the Life Resource Center years ago, they used to be all encompassing. They raised their own cows, their own pigs, their own chickens. They farmed. It was self-containing. It was like its own community. That's since gone away. You'll note that there's also there's a school section in there. We looked around, and one of the criteria that YDOT had been looking for is there needs to be close proximity to a highway. So we reached out to the Department of Health, who of course has responsibility to determine if any property at the Life Resource Center was to be removed, if it would have a negative impact on future plans for that campus. We checked with Director Johansson and his group, and then we reached out to YDOT on these 4 parcels here and said, you know, what amount would you need? And the amount of 31.1 acres, that one little parcel, is what they would like to have. So then reaching out to State Lands and Investments, said what's the right way to convey this property from one agency to another agency? How do we hand that off appropriately? 2 or 3 different ways, but was advised the cleanest way is if we could do it in a bill. So what this bill does is provide you with the legal description of that 31.1 acres, transfers it from the Department of Health to the Department of Transportation. That's all in A. You'll note in B, there's a conveyance authorized in this section that shall be made without impacting other rights or easements associated with a parcel thereof to be conveyed under this section subject to the easement, setback restriction, yada, yada. Then on the next page, that is not conveyed in this act shall be retained by the Department of Health for future conveyance for a municipality to be used for residential housing. As we looked at those other three sections, the co-sponsor and I, we said, well, that might work at some future date to be considered for residential housing for Lander, but it doesn't work, and there's nothing in B that requires that to take place, other than it just says the Department of Health can't convey it for any other reason other than that. But it's in conflict with what Board of Land Commissioners rules are and should probably be taken. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative Larson. Committee, any questions for Representative Larson on the bill? Seeing none. Thank you, Representative Larson. Director Johansson, nothing? Director Espy? Got your checkbook with you?
No. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Darren Westby, Director of Wyoming Department of Transportation. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to thank Representative and his co-sponsor, as well as Department of Health and Office of State Lands, of looking into this possibility for us getting out of at some point, I would assume YDOT current location was on the outskirts of town, and now it's in the middle of town, and it's confined to the point where we, as Representative Larson said, having issues with growth or even utilizing our existing equipment in that location. So the future opportunity that this represents is gives us just that, something that we can look to grow into in the future. And so I really appreciate the opportunity.
Committee, any questions for Director? Representative Nicholas?
Thank you. My question is, then what's going to happen with your current site? Are you going to put it up for sale, or you just use it for storage, or? And why wouldn't we do an exchange versus just a direct?
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, haven't gotten that far as to the exact disposition of the existing facility. I know Representative Larson has been working with the local district engineer in that context until this goes forward. I didn't want to surmise what and how we're going to go forward with that existing property.
Representative Larson?
Mr. Chairman, so that conversation has come up, and there's precedent on that when YDOT has a right-of-way or a property that then is no longer needed and conveys back to, that they no longer need, it conveys back to, or has the opportunity to be conveyed back to the if it was taken by condemnation, it goes back to that landowner. But if it wasn't, like in the City of Lander, my understanding kind of has the first right, which, so we're, in this bill, we're state to state, then you have state to city, and so there's kind of a difference there.
Any further questions for the Director? Committee? Seeing none. Director, thank you much.
Thank you.
Director Crowder? Welcome to Transportation. I don't know that I've ever had you in here, good sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. It has been a while since we've been in front of Transportation. Jason Crowder, Interim Director for the Office of State Lands and Investments. With me, I have Cody Booth. He's our Assistant Director over our Trust Land Management Division. We're really here to help facilitate the land transfer. What Department of Health owns in that area was managed by them for quite some time until 2013, when the legislature transferred that jurisdiction to the Board of Land Commissioners. And at that time, we in the board step in and do anything that's needed as far as management and land transfers on all the land that's not directly utilized for institutional purposes. And this fits that bill exactly. So we will do the transfer pursuant to the statute and how all of that is written and required through that. But one thing that Representative Larson mentioned was on subsection B, where that conflicts exist with that management criteria that's already been given to the board back in 2013. I'll read those three criteria. We are required, it says, shall be managed consistent with consideration of the needs of the institution, consideration of alternative uses of the property, which are compatible with the mission of the institution, and limitations contained in the Constitution of the State of Wyoming, state and federal law, and the conveyance instrument. So when we analyzed the transfer from Department of Health to YDOT, we went through that analysis, worked with the institution and the Department of Health, and feel like we've met all that criteria for this transfer. If the Department of Health were to retain this, whatever's left for residential housing, we don't feel like we've met that criteria. And we certainly don't know the needs of the institution when that residential housing opportunity would present itself. So with that, we would agree with Representative Larson that would make it a cleaner bill if that was stricken and remove that conflict. But otherwise, happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Committee, any questions for Director Crowder? Or Cody? Seeing none. Gentlemen, thank you very much. All right, we will open this up for any elected officials. Seeing nobody rushing up here. Any public comment?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We do have an elected official from Fremont County, Commissioner Jones, if he wouldn't mind coming up and giving us his thoughts on moving this facility up there to, on that land that's currently would be considered county property. And I might add, one of the great mines of Fremont County.
Commissioner, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Quite an intro as usual, and a good way to not live up to expectations. We'd be glad to take it. Oh, that's not what you're asking? Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, I'd probably raise a couple of thoughts with the traffic, because I didn't have a chance to look at the map with that property versus where it sits now, but it sits right in the middle of a major intersection anyway, so I don't think that's anything to be overly concerned. That was one of my questions too as well, whether, what would happen to that old building. I think there's a number of folks that would be interested in that. I think the city of Lander probably would be somewhat interested in that too. So I think it's great that the Life Resource Center land sits pretty open, and the more activity we have in there, I think is good for the community. We've got a little building, business park that the state helped with right on the edge of that, and so it's all good. I don't have anything much else to contribute to it, other than it sounds like a lot of work's been done on it already, so.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions for the Commissioner? Seeing none. Thank you,
you, Mr.
Representative Larson, for calling him out and bringing him up here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes, Representative Nicholas.
Uh-oh.
So I do have a question, because there's, you pull in off on Enterprise Boulevard.
Okay.
And so I would be curious to know what type of traffic we can expect out of YDOT, because there is both potential immediately adjacent to it for subdivision homes, and what impact that might have on subdivision homes, and also that little business park that's I think that's Maven, that's right there on the corner. So after you have looked at it, I'm curious what the department is thinking in terms of what traffic that will impose to those lots next door.
So that's not a question for the Commissioner then? That's more of a question for the Director that was already up here?
Yeah, well, and I just want him to look at the map and kind of ponder the same thought.
Okay. Commissioner, if you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Nicholas. Yeah, that was one of the first things that popped up in mind. That street is pretty wide. And depending on how much traffic is there, it's a lot of visibility on that corner as you're coming out. Because you're coming out right by am I seeing that right? You're coming out right by the WCC right there, Western Community College there. So if I stand back and think about it, I don't know that it's any worse than where they are right now. They're right there on Buena Vista. And that is kind of it was a very busy corner. We got a lot of traffic going both directions. I don't think it's any worse, really. It's probably better because I think the visibility is a whole lot better, especially if they're bigger vehicles. That'd be my first thought. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further questions for the Commissioner? Seeing none, thank you. Go ahead and open this up for public comment. Is there any public comment on the House Bill, what are we on, 179? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Bring the bill back to the Dais Committee. What's your pleasure?
Move the bill.
Moved by Nicholas, seconded by Geringer. Committee, let's work the bill real quick. This is a fairly straightforward bill. I do know that there was at least one amendment mentioned as a potentiality. Is there any motions on the floor for this? Move to strike B. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
on
Representative
page
Geringer.
3, I would move to strike section B.
So that will be seconded by Representative McCann. That'll be striking lines 17 through 23 on page 3 and lines 1 through 3 on page 4. Committee, any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. That amendment passes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Donna, can you please call roll on House Bill 179 as amended?
Roll call vote on House Bill 179 as amended, Department of Transportation Land Transfer. Representative Banks,
Excused.
Representative Geringer,
Aye.
Representative Larson. Representative McCann. Representative Nicholas. Representative Posey.
Excused.
Representative Tarver.
Aye.
Representative Wiley. Chairman Brown.
Aye.
We have 7 aye and 2 excused, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Representative Larson, I suspect if we get the chance to see this on general file, you'll carry this? Please. All right. Next up, we have got House Bill 210 and Chairman Knapp. Chairman Knapp, please join us up front here if you wouldn't mind. And go ahead and present House Bill 210 to us. Let us know what's going on here. And the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Committee, thank you also. I'm Representative Knapp, House District 53, and I'm here to discuss with you House Bill 210. This bill is personal, brought by a constituent for me. My brother graduated, went to West Point, served in the Army for decades and retired a colonel. And it's one of the reasons that I have been involved in doing service my life too. So as you can imagine, there are many veterans that come back from conflict and from serving, and they are entitled to benefits through the U.S. So very important, last year, VFW worked with more than 550,000 veterans who received more than $13 billion in benefits from the VA through the VFW Global Network. Not a penny of that $13 billion went to VFW. It went all to the veterans, which the law requires nationally. So today, House Bill 210 deals with the prohibition of unauthorized fees and benefits, or fees for veterans' benefits. It basically takes national law and adds a criminal penalty to that. When you deal with veterans' benefits, you are allowed to take a certain fee in doing that, but it's regulated by law. So this act would basically mirror that federal law. It would state that in working with a veteran, you have to acknowledge that you're either accredited or non-accredited through the VA, that any advertisement that you would have has that actual accreditation on there or lack thereof. And a person seeking to advise a veteran or assisting with a veteran shall, before rendering any advice or service, memorialize all the terms regarding the person's payment of fees or services rendered in written agreement signed by both parties. No person shall receive compensation for any services rendered before the date of notice where a disagreement is filed with respect to a person's class. So, they call these organizations sometimes claim sharks, because what happens is they'll help a veteran, they'll actually sign an agreement with a veteran or not, to where they receive a portion of that veteran's benefits that they do receive, which would have been for free had they used the VFW or the VA, or to charge an inordinate amount upfront in a fee. And so this law simply, again, mirrors federal law, but takes that a step further in a misdemeanor. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Representative Knapp. Committee, any questions for Representative Knapp on, what are we doing here? House Bill 210. Everybody's still rereading the bill, it looks like. Seems, Representative Nicholas, please.
Yeah, Representative Knapp, can you tell us specifically what this is intended to do and the practical things? I mean, what do we know about what's going on in Wyoming? Is this a problem? And if it's occurring, why are the feds not enforcing it? And then finally, the feds don't have a criminal component to it. Why do you want to make even greater penalties than what the feds do?
Representative Knapp.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Representative Nicholas, Wyoming has an inordinate amount of veterans than most other states do. We have a good population of veterans. This mostly is done online. The federal government is going through their law right now to possibly add that criminal element. So in the meantime, the VFW has asked all the states to basically shore up their law to include that element in it, because it is a large amount of violations going on across the U.S. I don't have the numbers on Wyoming, but it is an issue, and it involves, again, because there are billions of dollars in benefits, it does involve quite a bit of money in taking from those veterans. We do have several VSO officers in Wyoming. I do know that they are strapped. It is a hard situation in getting around to all the veterans in Wyoming to let them know. I do commend people like my brother or VFW that do take veterans in and let them know what their benefits are, or if they're lacking getting some benefits, and they do that free of charge. So I think that it's a matter of making sure that we are dealing with the abuse that is going on, and that we add a little bit of teeth to that, as well as they are trying to do that nationally.
Committee, anything further? Follow-up?
So I don't think that answered my questions, though. Do we know specifically what's going on? And if people are veterans or anybody are being cheated under these type of scams, and other than just saying that they exist, what are they? I mean, do you have more specifics on it?
Representative Knapp?
Chairman Brown, Representative, I view this the same way I do any other types of law that we enforce, whether it's election, whether it's veterans. I don't have the statistics of what abuse may be going on. This law simply prevents that abuse from happening and adds an element of penalty to that abuse. There are thousands and thousands of veterans in Wyoming that either are receiving benefits or don't know what their benefits are. And I think this law helps to ensure that they get those benefits without being charged extraordinarily. You'll hear testimony later, I think, and this becomes a policy issue for the committee and for the body, basically. And that policy issue is, do we make sure that those people that are talking to veterans are accredited, whether it's through the VA or whether it's through the VFW, through the VA, so that they are aware of the federal law and abiding by the federal law? Or do we just let businesses basically that aren't accredited take advantage of our veterans?
Anything further, Representative Nicholas?
So it looks to me like this has two different components. You have representation of whether or not the service is or isn't provided free of charge through some entity. So how do we differentiate for what is or isn't offered, and how is that person supposed to know the accuracy of whether or not it may be offered by the VFW?
Representative Knapp.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, thank you. That's the point, I believe, of being accredited, in going through that process of properly talking to a veteran, letting them know what their benefits are and aren't. The bill spells out that you can advise a veteran as long as you do the advertising, as long as those fees are not abnormally large through the federal law. But I believe in order to be a VSO and represent the Veterans Administration or VFW, that you do need some accreditation and some form of study and working through what is allowed and what is not allowed for benefits to enable to service that veteran.
Okay. Committee, anything further? Seeing none. Thank you, Representative Knapp. Appreciate your testimony today. Director, come on up, good sir. Director Shepard, if you'd just introduce yourself for the record and let us know what.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Brown. I'm Tim Shepard. I'm the Executive Director for the Wyoming Veterans Commission. It's my pleasure to be here today. Appreciate the committee's time.
Go ahead and let us know. Do you guys have any thoughts on this bill?
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have some thoughts on it. I think Representative Knapp, the key to me is the accreditation piece and making sure that those who are going to work with veterans are accredited. The biggest problem is obviously with the non-accredited. If they're accredited, they've agreed to work within the confines of the fee structure. If they're not, they can charge, and then unless they're somehow apprehended, they would get away with those excessive fees. And really who I worry about are our more senior veterans. And unfortunately, we have a large number of senior veterans who have still not filed for their benefits. Now, we work really hard to get that message out and to get them to get their benefits through a pretty lean veteran service officer corps. So basically, there are less than 20 people in Wyoming who work as veteran service officers to cover down on our 23 counties and our 45 to 48,000 veterans. So again, I do worry. And as with Representative Knapp, I don't have the specific numbers on how much crime or what problems there have been. I just know that there's ample number of veterans who could be victims. And really, anyone within that group of 45 to 48, depending on their conditions and what changes, is eligible to work a claim. And I think I'll stop there, Representative Brown, and I just would ask you and or the committee if you have any questions.
Thank you, Director Shepherd. Committee, any questions for the Veterans Commission? Seeing none. Thank you, Director. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any elected officials interested in testifying on this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. Mr. Schultz, come on down, and then it looks like we've got a couple online as well for this. So what we'll do is we'll take in-person testimony to start with, and then we'll go online. Please, yes, yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Shane Schultz, on behalf of Veterans Benefit Guide, or VBG. So if I use that acronym, you'll at least know what I'm talking about, so I'm not using a mouthful. VBG provides veterans with a private, legal, federally compliant service that assists veterans in navigating the VA disability claims process to help ensure they receive the full benefits they have earned. VBG strongly supports Representative Knapp's commitment to protecting our veterans, actually believes this bill does not go far enough in some areas, is absent necessary guardrails, which includes disclosure requirements and a fee cap. However, and most unfortunate, as written, HB 210 prohibits the services of honorable for-profit companies like VBG from serving veterans. The proponents of the bill intentionally and inaccurately insinuate organizations such as ours choose not to be accredited. That is false. VBG would welcome the opportunity to become accredited with the VA, but cannot because current law prohibits accredited entities from charging a fee for representation of veterans on the initial claim. VBG's personnel and medical service provider network and procedures already meet standards required of VA accredited agents, would meet any reasonable threshold for accreditation set by VA. Proponents of the bill claim that private services like VBG are violating the law. That is also false. The federal law states, quote, "No individual may act as an agent or an attorney in the preparation, presentation, or prosecution of any claim under laws administered by the Secretary," end quote, without first being accredited. I want to state for the record, we do not practice law, we do not act as the veteran's agent of record, and we do not present before the VA. Our concern with 210 is that it provides no path for honorable companies like VBG to become accredited with the VA, and therefore no path is available to serve veterans. While we're certainly helping veterans, far too many are being denied claims, denied benefits they earned due to the absurdly complicated system. Through no fault of their own, veterans were receiving lower disability ratings than they deserved or simply waiting years to receive final determinations on their benefits. Much like a tax provider, VBG helps veterans travel through a confusing bureaucracy to get what they are owed. 80% of VBG's employees are veterans themselves or have immediate family members that are veterans. We employed former VA personnel to help keep up to date with VA regs and the practice of VA disability compensation system. In exchange for our services, they're paid a one-time success fee. We are paid a one-time success fee only after the veteran is paid. The fee represents a small percentage of the increase in benefits received and is typically around 1% of the veteran's total lifetime benefits. If the veteran's benefit doesn't change, there is no fee. We're committed to putting the veteran's interest first. All the clients sign a waiver upfront acknowledging there are free services available. We make that very clear that if you engage with VBG, there are free services available. And if you choose to pursue the route of VBG or a similar company that does these disclosures, they know that. We've never taken a veteran to small claims court for non-payment and automatically write off 10% of our revenue due to unpaid fees. We do not offer services around the PACT Act claims, which do not require an expert guide. To date, we've guided more than 35,000 veterans through the claims process. These veterans have received an annual increase in monthly benefits of $1,300 in benefits they would have received, monthly benefits of $1,300 that would not have received without our help. Despite their best efforts, the VSOs, which are intended to represent veterans in the process, do not always have enough resources to help them and keep up with demand. In fact, 70% of our VBG clients have first tried navigating the VA benefits process with the help of a VSO rep or on their own. They were either denied their full benefits or felt the process was taking too long. It's clear that our service is needed. At present, only 5.2 million of the 19 million eligible veterans are receiving benefits. That means there may be millions more veterans who are not receiving benefits they earned, either because they're not aware of their eligibility or have tried to receive benefits and were wrongly denied, or just intimidated by the process alone. 210 as currently written would reduce freedom of choice, representation, and access to veteran services, making it harder for veterans to receive the benefits they have earned. As members of this committee, I urge you to consider our concerns and amend 210 so that we can lend our full support. I have others that are planning on testifying virtually. So if I'm not able to answer your questions, I'm trusting that they can. And the amendments that I handed out are meant to try and address, and I'm happy to kind of walk through those amendments if you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
Let's go ahead and have you walk through what the purpose of your amendments is before we go too much further, and then we'll open it up for committee questions.
So on page 2, line 21, just amending the definition of person to mean any natural person, corporation, trust, partnership, incorporated or unincorporated association, or any other legal entity. On page 3, line 1, lines 1 through 3, striking, advising, or assisting any person with regard to any veteran's benefit matter except as permitted under federal law or as provided by this section. I think my testimony touched on this would make us unable to provide services in Wyoming with some of this language, including this. The third amendment, delete that adheres to all criteria specified in 38 CFR 14.636. Similar, that's the language that makes it hard for us to comply with the federal law that I referenced in my testimony. And then we insert compensation must be purely contingent upon an increase of benefits awarded. If successful, compensation must not exceed 5 times the amount of the monthly increase in benefits awarded based on the claim. No initial or non-refundable fee may be charged by a person advising, assisting, or consulting an individual on a veteran's benefit matter. Next amendment.
Shane, on that one, can you
Yeah.
explain to me, I get the other two, at least a rough idea of why you're bringing those in. Why would we line out, is this language that you see in other states where we have a cap on compensation placed? I'm trying to figure out why we're putting a compensation cap on here as opposed to doing as the bill states.
I think the idea behind, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
The idea behind this is I do think there's actions in other states. It may have been passed in some other states. I think the other witnesses can probably touch on that a little closer. But the idea is just to have some guardrails, right? So you can't overcharge, put caps on it so that you're providing services that you know how much the cap's going to be as a veteran. And then obviously the idea of no initial or non-refundable fee. As we do, we only get paid if they get an increase in their benefits. And, we feel like that is the honorable thing to do. And think that language would be well suited as a policy decision in this statute.
Okay. Continue.
Let's see, page 3, lines 17 through 19. Let's delete that as a recommendation. Again, it goes after our ability to operate in the state. Same with page 4, right after section F, lines 4 through 9. Also, with this language, with the 5X limitation above the clarification, this doesn't need to apply to this doesn't apply to agents and attorneys. There is no need for this provision. That's one of the rationale for striking that language. Page 6, starting at line 11, before section J, insert businesses advising, assisting, or consulting on veterans benefits matters for a fee must abide by the following: must not utilize international call centers or data centers for processing veterans' personal information, must not use a veteran's personal login, username, or password information to access that veteran's medical, financial, or government benefits information, must ensure that any individual who has access to veterans' medical or financial information undergoes a background check prior to having access to that information. The background check must be conducted by a reputable source and include identity verification and criminal records check. I think that's fairly self-explanatory, Mr. Chairman. And then page 7, line 9, right after, before July 1st, insert nothing in this act shall be construed as applying to, limiting, or expanding the requirements imposed on agents, attorneys, or other representatives accredited by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and regulated by that agency.
Okay.
I would say, Mr. Chairman, with these amendments, we could support the bill, but as currently written, we have problems with it.
Okay. Committee? Yes, Representative Nicholas, please.
Thank you. Shane, I'm just curious, would you tell us a little more about VBG, how big they are, where they're located, how long they've been in the practice? And then also, and to follow up on that, if you can tell us, is this bill similar to other bills going on around the states, or is it different from those? And is this different actual language than what are in the federal laws that this are purporting to copy so that you can actually still be in business? I don't quite understand that.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, I'm going to go after your first question. I believe VBG is headquartered in Maryland, but I'm going to confirm that for you. So next question you asked, or maybe not in that order, but there are there's kind of dueling processes going on in states. There's the bill that Representative Knapp brought, that's being brought in some states and passed in some states. And there's the alternative version, which is kind of the language that my client and others have supported to get introduced in other states to allow companies like ours to continue to operate and provide for-fee services if the veteran is successful in getting increasing claims.
So let me follow up.
Follow up?
So that means in the states, can you tell us what states have adopted? In other words, where can you not practice because of state actions?
I believe New Jersey.
Mr. Schultz?
I'm not sure if Representative Knapp recalls. I think Denton Knapp will be testifying. I want to say there's 3 states that I can think of right off the top of my head. I know New Jersey is probably the most recent where that's being challenged, where it passed. But I will get you a list of the other 2 states that I know of for sure.
And Mr. Chairman, what states do you currently, VBG operates in?
Mr. Schultz?
Well, currently are working on helping veterans in this state. We have a couple clients here, and I'll get you a full list of the other states, but I know we operate in the states where it's legal, where we're allowed to. But I will get you a full list.
And then on my previous question, how does this bill different from the current federal act? Because obviously you're in practice. That tells me that there's some ways you get around the current act, federal act.
So,
Mr. Schultz?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, because of the accreditation process, we're not accredited through the VA, but we are able to support veterans in their claims in the states that have not passed Mr. Knapp's version of the bill by supporting veterans through their claim process or helping them prepare their claim. So that's kind of the difference. I'm not sure if I'm totally answering your question.
Follow up then.
Follow up?
How did you come up with it must not exceed 5 times the amount of the monthly increase?
I think that was, Mr. Chairman.
Schultz, yes.
Representative Nicholas, feel free to admonish me if I'm not following proper procedure, Mr. Chairman.
We will.
I think that was similar language that's been floated in other states as a means to try and just have a fee cap so that you can't just charge a more exorbitant fee cap. It's really truly just kind of a policy decision, Mr. Chairman.
So,
Follow up?
yeah, just to follow up on that, I don't understand how you can charge 5 times the fee that you just gave them, because that means you're taking fees from their other benefits, or else they're going to pay for it.
Schultz?
Mr. Chairman, when we go through this process of supporting veterans, we acknowledge right up front, we have them sign a waiver understanding there are free services. they utilize using services like ours because they have trouble navigating the process or don't want to navigate the process or have already gone through the VSO. And so they seek for help, and we provide a service for a fee if successful.
Just to follow up on that, tell me, does VBG have other amounts, different or lower than the 5 times that has been established by other states on what you can collect?
I believe,
Mr.
Mr.
Schultz?
Chairman, I believe we do charge lower rates, yes.
Could you, Mr. Parent,
and I'm-
follow up?
Follow up?
Could you tell us what those are?
I will find that answer for you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay. Committee, any other questions? Mr. Schultz, I've got, I guess my biggest question, and this is probably the 800-pound gorilla sitting in the room. Why is there a business model made off of making money off of helping veterans receive their benefits?
Mr. Chairman, it was, I think, recognized by other veterans that this is a process that they had gone through, and, you know, it was started by veterans to support veterans. And it was started to help them try and navigate the process and try and allocate and recover some costs for their time and obviously make a profit. I'm not going to deny that.
Okay. Yes, Representative, Vice Chairman Tarver.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Schultz, I guess maybe I missed it, maybe you already said it. Why do they not try to get accredited?
Because the current process, Mr. Chairman, Representative Tarver, the current process to become accredited doesn't allow, you have to go through that process through the VA. And I think the others that are going to be appearing virtually can probably explain that process better than I can today. I'm sorry, I didn't more eloquently answer that question, Mr. Tarver.
Representative Geringer.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Schultz. Question for you. So would it be, is it a fair assumption to say that there is time that is saved going through the process using a service such as VBG's, maybe and maybe resulting in some additional benefits that can come to the veterans that much quicker?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
Representative Geringer, I think that's a fair characterization. Yeah, it's absolutely, the process is we help them navigate it quicker because they've already, you know, like I said in my statement, 70% of the time they've tried the free steps, the steps of the VSO or others to assist them and were either frustrated by the process or just flat out denied. And so, yeah, there's definitely a time saving by using entities like mine.
Follow up.
Mr. Chairman, and then another question on the 5 times the amount. We're talking about it's 5 times the amount of the monthly increase, and so it's an ongoing benefit that occurs, correct? And therefore, you're only taking about 5 times, so it's still a set fee. It's not taking 5 times the amount that they're getting total. It's just a 5 times the monthly increase in benefits. Is that a better way to put it?
Mr. Chairman, Representative
Please.
Geringer, absolutely, you are spot on. It's whatever the increase in the monthly is a one-time fee. We're not getting paid monthly. I want to be very clear on that. It's a one-time fee.
Okay. Committee, any further questions for Mr. Schultz and/or VBG? And I'm guessing that we have VBG online as well, or somebody has, I didn't even look.
Mr. Chairman, my understanding is Ashley Berry with the National Association of Veterans Rights
Okay.
is going to testify, as well as Mark Christensen with Veterans Guardian, which is a similar company to VBG.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Appreciate that. Mr. Lindholm, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Tyler Lindholm, and I am just representing myself. I'm not representing any organization with these statements. I'm speaking on my own experiences as a veteran that has received veterans benefits. You asked a really good question of Mr. Schultz, Chairman Brown, when you said, you know, why would a for-profit company come up around trying to help with these veterans benefits? And Mr. Chairman, when I say this, I say it only as myself. Most of the time, the federal government is incompetent at very best. The VA is poorly run. They're using archaic systems that do not work. My wife is a current nurse practitioner for the VA out of South Dakota, and their systems are majorly out of date. Now, granted, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the VA services or the veteran services and benefits that I've received have been largely around GI Bill benefits. And I learned about how I could utilize my GI Bill benefits from a for-profit company in a way that was not traditional. I know this is probably going to shock you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm not a college-educated man. I never attended any kind of college or anything like that. I went right to work as soon as I got out of the military. I went to, I got into an apprenticeship here in the state of Wyoming after my time in the service. What I found out was that my GI Bill benefits could offset and help my pay. And the reason behind this, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, apprentices are paid lower amounts than journeymen. And so the way the VA the GI Bill benefits viewed this situation was because I was 4 to 5 years offset from my peers when they entered the apprenticeship, I could get a stipend that would count against my GI Bill benefits to offset. As a single income family raising multiple kids, that was huge for me and my family. My wife at the time was going through college, Gillette College, for her RN, and she was able to use her GI Bill benefits there. And that's a typical route that most veterans use. The apprenticeship route was not very typical, and that's where I was able to learn about that. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I appreciate what Chairman Knapp is attempting to do in this legislation, ensuring that veterans are protected. But, Mr. Chairman, I do have to say that when it comes to the few amendments that I heard from Mr. Schultz as far as allowing for-profit entities to be able to continue to help veterans, I myself have benefited from that. So I oppose any restrictions that would, on assisting veterans as they create those unnecessary barriers. I do think that there's a place in legislation to ensure that veterans are protected from some of these folks that may scalp or what have you. But that has not been my experience with the organizations I've participated with. So I felt like I needed to give you my experiences with these for-profit entities. And I'll answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Ready, any questions for Mr. Lindholm? So my only question is the VA benefits that you've received were not from any of the bar fights, you and the Navy?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this will come as a surprise. I have faced non-judicial punishment in the U.S. military. I've been to Captain's Mast several times. I think that's a judgment call, your judgment call on how much fun I had in the military.
Appreciate that, Mr. Lindholm. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else in the room for public comment? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open up. Let's start out with the first person I have on my list is Mr. Christensen. So let's go ahead and bring in Mark Christensen.
And Mr. Chairman, we also have one additional person who's not listed, Denton Knapp.
Okay. We will actually hear from, we'll take him next.
I'm admitting Mark Christensen.
Mr. Christensen, welcome.
How are you, Mr. Chairman? Thank you.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself and provide your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thanks for allowing me to provide testimony today. My name is Mark Christensen. I'm a 25-year Army veteran and Chief of Staff at Veterans Guardian. We're one of those companies that's often referred to as a claim shark. We're a veteran-owned and operated company with over 200 employees who are veterans of spouses, veterans of spouses, active duty service member spouses, family adjacent to veterans in some way. We've been awarded the Better Business Bureau Torch Award for Marketplace Ethics for multiple years. We're a Department of Labor Hire Vets Platinum Award recipient multiple years in a row. And we actually have many clients that are members of those service organizations that sort of oppose companies like us. We've helped over 35,000 vets last year across the world. We achieve a 90% success rate in an average of 85 days. We're transparent about veteran options, including the free services of the VSOs, our contingent fee-based model, and our accreditation status. Nobody forces a veteran to use our company. They're making informed decisions on what's best for them and their families. And as the secretary stated, the VSOs are incapable of meeting the demands of veterans in your state. Wyoming only has 20 unique VSO representatives to meet the demands of over 45,000 vets. That equates to over 2,000 vets per VSO. Over 70% of our clients have used this free services before. In fact, almost 88% of our Wyoming veterans have tried the free services before. And so what those veterans are telling you is that they need more options, not less. And what this bill does is give them fewer options because it puts companies like ours out of business. We appreciate the intent of the bill, but it just fails to address some of the specific protections. And rather than taking a sledgehammer to an issue, we should take a scalpel. I just want to, clarify a couple things. The bill that was presented, as was stated, is a VFW bill. It's been introduced nationwide in many states because it failed at the national level. And so that fight was taken to the states. There are 2 states in the nation that have passed a similar bill. Those are New Jersey and Maine, and both of them are being sued because this bill fundamentally violates federal law and it fundamentally violates a veteran's right to choose and a company's First Amendment rights to associate with those veterans. Bills similar to what this bill is this year and last year have been introduced in over 20 states and have been defeated. The bill with amendments as introduced has passed in Louisiana. It's the law of the land in Louisiana and is likely to pass in states like Arizona, Nebraska, Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, and Michigan. So it's a nationwide fight to protect veteran choice. The contingent fee model means that we're only getting paid if we're successful. If a veteran doesn't see an increase in their benefit, we see no pay. And as was stated, that payment, just to be clear, is a one-time fee of the increase. $100 this month, we help someone, they get $200 next month. That's a fee of $500, 5 times that increase. One time. We offer payment plans, 10 months, 5 months. They can pay in a lump sum with a discount. We never charge interest. We never report them to the credit bureau for not paying. We never have a veteran come to us and end up in a worse position than they were before they came to us. The federal law is really clear on accreditation and what we are as consultants. Federal law regulates attorneys and agents who are accredited, who present before the VA. Consultants like us operate in a space that is largely unregulated, and we're asking for that regulation. But those common sense guardrails that were proposed in the amendments are something we can get behind and something that we are working on at the federal level to reform accreditation and put it in those common sense reforms. We believe there's a compromise solution that maintains freedom of choice while legislating those predatory actions by those bad actors in the space, and every industry has them. But we think that we can come to some compromise. And just to put into perspective the scope of the problem, because a question was asked earlier on how big is the problem? What is the problem? Well, I can tell you that from 2017 to today, only 9 matters have been sent to enforcement agencies by the VA. That means between 2017 and now, only 9. And from 2017 until today, 60% of the claims or complaints that have been presented to the VA have been against accredited entities, not unaccredited. And that total number is about 100 complaints in 2017 against accredited or unaccredited actors. So I'm not saying that these things aren't important. I'm saying the scope of the problem has been overblown. Everything that happens to a veteran that's taken advantage of is bad. But these things don't happen necessarily around the disability claims. There are other things that are more susceptible to criminal acts, aid and attention, or aid and attendance, pension benefits. Those sorts of things are much more ripe than disability claims. And so we think we can work together to come up with a compromise. And as we said, we are happy to support the amendment to move this forward and work with this body and help continue to give those 45,000 plus veterans in the state options that they deserve. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will stop and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Any committee, any questions for Mr. Christensen? Seeing none, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to hop over to our Wyoming folks here. I know we have Denton Knapp. Let's go ahead and let him in. And then just so we're aware, I will also be bringing in Joel and Justin next.
Mr. Knapp needs to turn on his audio and video.
Okay, combo check. You guys got me?
We got you, Denton. Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Chairman. I'm Denton Knapp. I'm a veteran. I spent 30 years in the U.S. Army and for the last 8 years have been assisting veterans with benefits and being an advocate. The first 4 years I did that with Goodwill of Orange County, California, with 130,000 veterans in that county. And we charged $0 for the services for any veterans and their survivors. And since I've gotten back to my hometown of Gillette here, we've been doing this for about 3.5 years, particularly through the Veterans for Foreign Wars. Today, I'm representing the Veterans for Foreign Wars Department of Wyoming, and I'm the appointed National Legislative Committee member. I go to DC twice a year to brief our Congresswoman and our 2 senators on veterans benefits and services at the national level. And so I'm very familiar, having done this 3 times now, going on a 4th this coming March, on what these bills entail. So the federal bill right now is Senate 740 / HR 1139. So it is joint supported legislation. It is called the GUARD VA Benefits Act. And we've coined "Don't Feed the Sharks." And those sharks, as mentioned, are claim sharks. So right now, the Veteran Foreign Wars and American Legion, 2 of the largest veterans advocacy groups in the United States, are adamantly against charging veterans anything for their benefits because they are free, they're earned, they've been paid for with our time, blood, and life. And veterans and, God help us, survivors should not be charged for their benefits. Now, VA has been clearly designated as the entity by U.S. Code 38 to handle all veterans' benefits. And since the PACT Act has opened up wide here recently, we've got a greater aperture of veterans that are eligible for benefits, to include most of our Vietnam veterans. And since that time, we've seen a lot of businesses pop up that are charging veterans to get their services. Some of the compromises that have been talked about by our previous speaker from VBG are contained in the PLUS Act, which is another bill going through federal legislation, which makes these compromises. Well, I will tell you, the Veterans for Foreign Wars and American Legion are adamantly against the PLUS Act. I'm telling Congressman Hageman and Senators Lummis and Barrasso not to support that. So accreditation is important. It's tasked by the U.S. government that VA be the monitor for that. There's got to be a standard. The federal law is asking to reinstate penalties for charging veterans and survivors unauthorized fees relating to claims for VA benefits. So it's federal law right now. It's against the law to do this. What happened was, for some odd reason, and you get different opinions on why, the penalties were taken away. Well, if there's no teeth to a law, that law doesn't mean very much. The penalties were 1 year imprisonment and up to $5,000 per incident. And so we are asking Congress to have that reinstated, those penalties for the federal U.S. code. 8 states have already passed these laws, and here's why we're asking Wyoming to do the same. At the speed of government at the federal level, Things are delayed. This bill has been going forward for about a year and a half now, and there's lobbying against it on both sides, in support of the Plus Act and those that aren't. But this bill is supported in 8 laws, or I'm sorry, 8 states passed the state laws, and they are Washington, Iowa, New York, Illinois, Nevada, New Jersey, Maine, and Massachusetts. And Wyoming would be the 9th state to pass this. Veterans Business Guide, I had a discussion with them along with my brother Christopher Knapp, Representative Knapp, for about an hour and a half discussing this, and I know they've discussed it at the federal level. In that sense, I provided Representative Knapp with New York and New Jersey letters, as well as letters from VA that have actually banned operations of Veteran Business Guide in those states. We're an advocate. We're an advocate organization, and because of that, we take care of our veterans and their survivors. Veterans should not have to pay anything for their services. And the answer is not hiring different companies that will take your benefits either by fees up front or by taking some of your benefits once you receive them. The answer is providing, at the state level, our Veterans Commission with more veteran service officers. As Director Shepard mentioned, he has less than 20 that operate across 23 counties in one of the largest states as far as area. And we remain one of the top states per capita number of veterans. If you line up 10 people in the state of Wyoming, one of them is a veteran. We're looking at 10 to 11%, where the national average is 7 to 8%. So we need to lead the way on this as Wyoming. What I'm asking you all is to support this bill as written. The amendments are a compromise, and we're saying we're not compromising our benefits and services. We shouldn't have to, nor should the survivors of those veterans that have passed. And so with that, I've also got our our state commander for Department of Wyoming for the Veterans for Foreign Wars on here too, Mr. Justin Tripp. Thank you.
Thank you, Denton. Any questions for Mr. Knapp? Representative Geringer, please.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Knapp, Colonel, I believe it is, thank you for your service, first off, and thank you for the work that you've done on behalf of veterans as well. We've heard that by utilizing some of these services, veterans can in fact maybe shortcut some of the time in order to, because of the overwhelm in the need for additional staff and other things, that perhaps these other services can help them get greater benefits sooner. And so I guess what I'm struggling with here is if we have an option where somebody is able to pay in effect for a quicker return, is there nothing to that? Is there something that I'm missing here that maybe we can help some folks get their benefits, a greater amount of benefits sooner?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
In answer to that, again, veterans should not be charged for benefits. Regardless if a VSO, a Veteran Service Officer, that is nationally selected, or for instance, like Wyoming, our state VSOs, the process always has to go through VA. And that includes for any private businesses out there, the benefits come from VA. So the answer is to get more Veteran Service Officers that do it for free. Now, VFW has some VA trained and accredited Veteran Service Officers at different levels. Unfortunately, I think there's one in Cheyenne for VFW and one in Cheyenne for American Legion, but not throughout the rest of the state. They charge zero. In fact, American Legion and VFW pay money to help veterans with their benefits. So the point is, let's follow the federal statute. Until those penalties are reinstated at the federal level, we're asking that states support this. And as mentioned, 8 states have already passed these laws. 2 of those states, New York and New Jersey, don't let VBG operate in those states. And we want to be the 9th state to do this in Wyoming. We got to take care of our veterans, one of the most populous states for veterans in the nation. And we need to do the right thing for them. I personally have used a Veteran Service Officer for every one of my benefits. After 30 years in the infantry, I left with 100%. Now, how fast that occurs is up to veteran service officers. And we can all say that VA has problems. It's the second largest bureaucracy, next to DOD in the United States. We don't have enough to go around. Wyoming's a rural state, and we got great distances. So right now, to give you some perspective, we have one VSO for about 3 counties in Wyoming. And that VSO may be in the office 3 days a week and then have to drive to other counties to perform actions. And so they're overworked, under strength. I would ask that on a separate note, we take a look at the Veterans Commission and their budget and our capability to provide more VSOs to speed up the process. They go through the training, they are accredited, they have the right answers. And for that reason, that's a solution that we should seek, and not having private companies for profit charge veterans for benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Any further questions? Seeing none, appreciate that. Just for the committee's edification, we have sponsored numerous bills in the past to actually increase the VSO population across the state. I think we've been successful one of the 6 or 7 times that we've brought that a budget amendment forward, and it was for a whopping 1 VSO additional. So it's not been an easy task for us. But with that, let's go ahead and let Mr. Tripp in. I noticed that I was wrong and I had Mr. Schnell here, or Mr. Shell here for 310. So let's go ahead and bring in Justin Tripp, please.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me all right?
We have got you, Justin. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Brown and committee members. My name is Justin Tripp. I'm a state commander for the Veterans of Foreign Wars in Wyoming, but I also would like to share that I'm a Navy veteran, and I'm a customer, as what you would call it, of the VA. I'm fortunate enough where I also work and have private insurance, and and I have VA that covers my service-connected disabilities. So I'm speaking from both sides because I'm also a user of the system. So I appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony regarding this bill. I am in support of this bill and believe this type of legislation should be placed into law, not only in Wyoming, but across America to protect veterans and assist them in maximizing their earned benefits with assistance of accredited representation. I would like to make 2 points. First, the VA has established accredited representatives and Veteran Service Organization representatives, we call them VSOs, who can assist with filing a claim or requesting a decision review. And I think this is a key part to keep in mind, because I heard questioning about, speed up the process. What you're speeding up potentially is putting your application in there. You're not speeding up the VA's decision. You have to understand both sides. So when you bring a claim to the VSO, one of our VSO, if he emailed you, has a VA address. They're accredited, they work at the VA, they are on the ground helping these veterans file these claims for free. And I wanted to make that point there because I heard some questions about speeding up the process. Yes, we could probably speed up the process, but once you get in the VA, no one can speed up that process. You're at the discretion of the actual VA system who is reviewing a veteran's claim. So I also want to talk, there are 3 types of representatives recognized by the VA. So if you go to the website, they'll talk about 3 representatives. One is a VSO, like the VFW, the American Legion, the DAV, that's a VSO. There is also accredited attorneys and accredited claim agents who have been trained and accredited by the VA. Now, our VSOs do not charge a fee, but I also want to make sure you understand the accredited attorneys and accredited claim agents, they can charge a fee, and they do charge a fee. So if you go on the VA website, if I'm a veteran and I search for the closest claim agent, most likely I would go into a contract with them. Now, the difference is, the fees they charge are reasonable and authorized through the VA and through the law. So the fees they charge are authorized through the VA. My position is simple. We support accredited VSOs, attorneys, and agents to support veterans and provide the service they were trained and accredited through the VA to complete. We do not support non-accredited agents to provide a fee-based service to our veterans. Additionally, their fee structure referring to non-accredited is not authorized or approved through the VA, so there's no oversight on that. You know, and I would encourage, there's been talks, we've had some paid representatives of these companies. I'm on my lunch right now. I'm not being paid to represent the VFW. I do this because I care about veterans. Is the company cannot get accredited through the VA, to my understanding. Agents that work for them potentially could get accredited through the VA as well, but not the company. And I think that's where some of the dialogue is right there. My second point is the accredited VSOs, attorneys, and agents do not work for the VA and act as a third-party representative for the veteran and assist them with gaining their earned benefits. My organization, the VFW Department of Wyoming, I'll correct Denton on this one. We have 2 VSOs, not 1 in Cheyenne now. So we have 2 VSO representatives who have been trained, tested, and are accredited through the VA. They are assigned at the Cheyenne VA Medical Center and support veterans daily. As of December 2024, there are 3,268 claims in Wyoming being represented by VFW. That's a total of 5.8 million each month. That equals to about $1,775 each of the veterans are getting on average. So the 5.8 million is on all the claims. And then so our organization is supporting these veterans. This does not include data from other organizations like the American Legion or the DAV. I'm providing the data from my organization. The VFW as a whole supports the accredited VSO program financially and assigns VSOs throughout the country. Most of the veterans we serve are not managing their medical or are not only managing their medical situations from their military illnesses and injuries, but also a lot of them have financial struggles as well. The VFW provides this free service to assist them and to not gain financially on their claims. I am proud of the work we do, but we will continue to fight for veteran benefits and protections until every veteran has been properly compensated and treated for their military injuries and illnesses. In conclusion, I support a bill that improves veteran protections and supports the current approved VA accredited representatives. Your support will ensure veterans are being properly charged for accredited services received and to maximize their benefits. Please support this bill and the veterans this bill will protect. I thank you for your time and consideration. And, you know, I think together we can improve the Wyoming veterans. I'm not from Wyoming originally. I'm from Michigan. My last duty station was San Diego, but I've been in Wyoming since 2017. I am a Wyoming veteran here. And you know, my focus is supporting Wyoming veterans. Our service officers, Jonathan and Tomas down at the VA Center, they work daily. Yes, you can make the argument that we're overwhelmed. We have lots of veterans, but we will support. We will get in front of them as quickly as possible. We provide the support, and we're not the only VSO organization out there either. So with that, I thank you for your time and consideration.
Committee, any questions for Mr. Tripp?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gehringer, Representative Gehringer.
Mr. Tripp, you may know this better than I do. Do attorneys who are accredited receive a fee as well?
To my knowledge and understanding, I went on the website earlier to do some research prior to speaking to it. My understanding would be attorneys could charge a fee along with some of the agents as well could charge a fee. But those fees are regulated, or there's certain fees. I don't have the specifics. There are certain fees. They're regulated to the point where they just don't come up. You know, there's a certain amount they can charge.
Committee, any further questions for Mr. Tripp? Appreciate House District 9 constituent coming on to help us out. Thanks so much, Justin.
Mr. Chairman, Mark Christensen from Veterans Guardian has raised his hand to testify a second time.
We're not going to do that right now, just due to the fact that we are already running a little bit late. I'm going to allow Ashley to come in at this point, and I'm going to, while we're bringing her in, hopefully she can hear us, I will ask her to keep the comments pithy. I would still like to get through House Bill 310 if possible today, so.
I'm admitting Ashley.
Ashley, welcome, and if you didn't hear, I'd like to keep the comments pithy if possible. We've got one more bill to get through, and we've got 24 minutes to get to that, so.
Okay, well, thank you, Chairman Brown and members of the committee. I'm Ashley Berry, testifying on behalf of the National Association for Veteran Rights, or NAVR. We're a national trade association dedicated to promoting ethical and transparent business practices among ethical companies who you've heard from today. As a former journalist and senior executive at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs in Washington, D.C., I have spent my entire career advocating for veterans and exposing the systemic failures that too often leave them struggling to access the benefits they've earned. We've talked about this today. I exposed the Phoenix VA wait time scandal while reporting for CBS News and have reported firsthand on the challenges that veterans face when navigating the complex VA healthcare and claims process. Yes, they do have to wait, and they do have to wait longer because, as was expected and talked about here today, you heard the numbers from Mark Christensen and Mr. Knapp. The VSOs are overworked and taxed. In Wyoming, there are over 45,000 veterans, less than 24 VSO representatives, leaving more than 2,000 veterans for every VSO representative. So more than 43% of claims in that state have been pending for more than 4 months. And those delays are not just bureaucratic inconveniences. They can have devastating consequences, and I personally can attest to that. VA is overwhelmed. Many veterans simply cannot get the help they need promptly. So restricting compensation for those who provide expert guidance outside of the VA's accreditation system will only create more barriers, leaving veterans without options and potentially leading to financial hardship, mental health struggles, and even suicide. So we can't afford to take that risk. I appreciate your time, consideration. Thank you for listening to me, and welcome the opportunity to work together on solutions and amendments to this bill for truly supporting Wyoming veterans. Thank you.
Ashley, thank you so much for keeping those brief. Representative Nicholas.
Thank you. Ashley, could you provide us some insight on the two pending bills in Congress, which apparently are working against each other? One to prevent and the other to assist with, I assume, some type of caps or limitations on fees for veterans benefits?
So respectfully, sir, I am going to defer to Mark Christensen. I think that is probably the reason why he wanted to just pop back in to explain that to you. So I think it's better that he can address that, if that's okay.
That's perfectly fine. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Representative Nicholas, just due to the time constraints, we're gonna cut public testimony off. Do appreciate that, everybody, but I'd like to get moving on to the next bill. So committee, I'm gonna bring the bill back to the dais. What's the committee's pleasure? Moved by Representative Tarver, seconded by Geringer.
So, one second, please. Mr. Chairman, I don't think we've heard of sufficient testimony, and I'd like to hear responses from our local folks on this bill. If we have to come back after 5 and finish the bills, so be it. Let's keep working the bill. I would like to know more. I don't know how you vote on this bill without having a better understanding of the process. It sounds to me like both are trying to do the best thing for veterans, honestly. And we're picking and choosing without having all the answers, no matter what we do. I mean, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'd like to help the veterans, but I'd like to make the right decision. I don't know how I can do that at this point.
Representative Nicholas, I don't disagree that we're damned if we do and damned if we don't, based off of the way that this testimony has gone. I don't know that hearing any more testimony is going to rectify that. That is my concern. And so I bring that back to the committee for consideration. Consideration was for a motion to move. We do have a motion on the table and a second. We'll have additional conversation. So Representative Nicholas, if you choose not to adopt this, or you choose to vote aye or no, that's your prerogative at this point. Committee, any further discussion? On the motion at hand, Representative Geringer.
Mr. Chairman, I would move the amendments we have in front of us as written.
Motion on the floor to adopt the amendments as provided. Is there a second? Second by Wiley. Committee, any discussion on the amendments as provided by Mr. Schultz?
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Geringer.
I guess, first off, I'll say that I do support protecting our veterans' benefits as much as possible. I'm also of the opinion that we have an obligation that if there's a way to privately expedite the process, whether that be in terms of timing and getting the submittal to the VA, or having some additional creative ways to get additional benefits, as we've heard from one of the folks that has testified. These proposed amendments, it sounds like from the folks that brought it, gives them the opportunity to still do business in Wyoming. This is not a requirement for our veterans to have to use them. They can still use the free route that is available to them, the VSOs that are available. And so to me, it seems like this amendment, this set of amendments is something that makes it a little bit more workable to provide more options to our veterans. And it still works within the guidelines of trying to protect our veterans. So I would encourage an aye vote on this amendment.
Representative Vice Chairman Tarver.
Mr. Chairman, I'm struggling with this, but I would agree. I do believe this is taking an option off the table. If they so choose to use a service, I think that should be in their wheelhouse. They should have the choice whether they want to pay, to expedite, or use a free service. I think we're limiting them if we don't give them this option.
Representative Nicholas.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring an amendment to the amendment. And I would like to reduce 5 times to 3 times.
I'll second that if it's friendly to the bringer of
That-
the first.
Well, it doesn't have to be friendly, because the amendment is debatable.
I'll second.
Can be unfriendly. We can have enemy fire here.
Friendly second.
Okay, Donna, do you have that amendment to the
To
amendment?
clarify, is it reduced 5 times to 3?
That is correct.
correct.
Okay, committee, we're going to dispose of that really quick. Any discussion? Moving from 5 to 3, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no?
No.
Okay. Back to the standing amendment. Any further discussion?
Do we know what the vote was,
Uh,
Mr. Chairman? I heard 2 ayes and 1 no. That means we win.
The ayes have it. Yes, sorry.
Okay,
My apologies. That's been adopted. Figured that was good enough. If you heard it, then you got it right. Committee, any further discussion on the amendment as drafted? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. That amendment is adopted as well. Committee, any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Donna, can you please call roll on House Bill 210 as amended?
Just liked it better.
Roll call vote on House Bill 210 as amended. Representative
Lower
Banks.
fees. I asked them the question.
Excused?
I just picked it.
Representative Garner.
Aye.
Representative Larson left an absentee vote of aye. Representative McCann.
Aye.
Representative Nicholas.
Aye.
Representative Posey. Representative Tarver.
Aye.
Representative Wiley.
Aye.
Chairman Brown.
Aye.
We have 8 aye and 1 excused, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Chairman, I task that you'll end up taking this as well as the amendment on the floor. Okay. All right, committee, we have got 15 minutes. We will see if we can get through this. If not, we will hold this one over. Representative Tarver, Vice Chairman Tarver, this is your bill, House Bill 310. Trailer permanent registration amendments. Floor is yours, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, this bill is an attempt to bring a permanent plate to our commercial trailers. Okay, I don't know if you guys have noticed, we have a lot of Idaho plates on our commercial trailers. This bill is to try to bring some of those plates back to Wyoming. So basically, if you want me to walk through the bill quickly, it's just setting the fees. If you sell the trailer, trade the trailer, you have to renew your license. So, do you want me to go any further with that? That is about
yeah,
that
let's-
basic.
I'll just go ahead and ask you really quick, section 2, we've got a repealer in there, 312206 in 1. There's that repealer. Can you explain what that repealer is?
No.
Okay, that doesn't help me at all. I appreciate.
Hopefully, there's someone in here that can.
Okay, I've got Lacey back there giving me the heads up. Committee, any questions for Representative Tarver, Representative Nicholas?
Thank you. Representative Tarr, I'm just curious what the fees are if you have a permanent plate, or what's the cost?
$350 is what is, Mr. Chairman, $350, Mr. Nicholas, or
Thank you.
Representative Nicholas.
Committee, anything further for Vice Chairman? Nice work, sir.
Yeah,
Bringing
thanks,
that
short and
quickly.
sweet.
Lacey and Company. Ms. Bruckner, please introduce yourself for the committee's edification, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Lacey Bruckner. I'm with YDOT Compliance and Investigation. I have with me Shonda Rice. She works in our Motor Vehicle Services Department and works with apportioned commercial registration. So she's here with me to help with any questions on the commercial registration parts of this bill. So to answer the question regarding that repealer, that statute, section N and O, they were placed into law in 2023, went into effect in 24 for permanent registration for light trailers, any trailer under 1,000 pounds. So that specific paragraph that's repealed there on page is that? Yes, thank you. Section 2, that specifically refers to trailers that weigh less than 1,000 pounds. So this bill, House Bill 310, what this is doing is opening that permanent license plate option for trailers, for all trailers, excluding house trailers, not just light trailers that weigh less than 1,000 pounds. So the purpose for that repeal is to remove that limited weight for applying permanent registration to only a light trailer. This opens it up to all trailers except for house trailers.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So if it's all right with you, Mr. Chairman and committee, we'll just kind of speak briefly to this bill from the administrating perspective through YDOT, if that's all
Please.
right. Okay, thank you. So in general, Mr. Chairman, the department would be able to administer this bill overall. There are a couple of sections that we maybe have some comment or question about, maybe more for clarification than anything, but should there need some changes, we can make suggestions for that as well. So starting on page 2, under statute 31-214, transfer of ownership. There have been some other license plate bills addressing permanent registration as well. And so on line 20 to 21, it requires the owner to immediately remove the license plate from the trailer if they transfer ownership of it. And what the department has been asking for administrative purposes there is to add language after the word trailer that states, and notify the county treasurer to have the registration canceled. The reason for that is that when we have permanent license plates and the owner just removes the plate when they transfer the vehicle, that record of that permanent registration stays on the state database and the county's database indefinitely. And so that we don't know that that vehicle isn't still currently being operated on that permanent plate. So at least,
On the other trail.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nichols, that's probably true.
That's exactly what it is.
So at any rate, so that would be one recommendation that the department would have for ease in administering permanent plates. Then moving on to page 4, starting on line 9, where we start getting into commercial registration for trailers. Those can be a little bit different. Commercial trailers, there are a lot of specialty trailers involved there, and sometimes the manufacturer's suggested retail prices for commercial trailers, they can be range from anywhere maybe to $60,000 clear up to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the type of trailer it is. So if, you can have tanker trailers, you can have special equipment type trailers that probably the equipment is worth way more than the wheels and the frame, but those vehicles have a higher value, and that may cause some cost loss to counties as far as county registration and value of the vehicle. And if it's intended for all trailers, then great. But if it's not, we would have some suggested language to add on line 14 that would clarify that we're talking about trailers designed to haul freight or general commodities, and not these specialty trailers that have a significantly higher value. And the purpose for that would be, that's how the county portion of vehicle registration, including commercial registration, is calculated. Moving down to the bottom of page 4, we had a quick question about that. This section that's added to the commercial statutes kind of mirrors what's already in place for the permanent registration that's in 31.206. So, but this, for the commercial registration, there is a limitation in the standard trailer registration permanent plate that if you choose to do it upon initial registration, you're paying $350 one time for that permanent plate. But if you don't do that on initial registration, you can also permanently register your trailer under subsection O, 31.22060. And what that requires is the trailer to be not less than 6 years old. So if you don't do it up front at initial registration, you have the option to wait until it's six years old, which 6 years is when it values out. You can wait if you have it and you don't choose to do it up front at initial registration, you can wait till it's 6 years old, and then you can permanently register the plate. At that point, you're paying a $50 administrative fee and 5 times the registration fees once. So that 6-year requirement wasn't included in this new subparagraph AA under 31.18.201. So we weren't sure if that was intentional or if that was just an oversight that 6-year requirement did not get added to the commercial side.
Lacey, can you provide me with that citation again? It is 31, what was the original one that we added in there for the 6-year?
Okay, so the first, that 6-year reference is in statute 31.206 NII.
Thank you. And I will, we're not going to ask the bringer of this. We might have that discussion because I do remember that being a very valid discussion the first time around. So appreciate that, and I appreciate the heads up of knowing that we need to clarify some language for the department.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And moving through the bill, the only other request or recommendation that the department might have would be on page 7, section 4. Currently, it states this act would be effective July 1st of 2025. The department is currently going through a modernization process, and our new computer system to house registration and title data is expected to be completed in July of 2025, but should there be some issues with that or that take longer, that effective date might make it complicated for the department to produce these plates and issue the registration. So we would just ask if the committee would consider maybe moving that to January 1st of 2026, as we've requested on other license plate bills thus far this year. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would stand for any questions. Thank you.
Committee, any questions? Yes, Representative Nicholas?
So, thank you. My question is, when I drive the interstate, which I do quite a bit, the primary license plate out there is Maine. So my question is, just by trailers, does this include semi-haul trailers in this category? And if it does, I'm curious what Maine does, because Maine obviously is trying to capture national licensing, because they're all over the place, and what their costs are and how it works. But I see a lot of Idaho, but I see a lot more Maine. So,
Lacey,
Mr. Chairman.
do you know the answer to that, since we're on the opposite side of this country?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, I do not know the specifics about Maine's commercial trailer registration, but I would be happy to research that and provide some information back to the committee if that would be your pleasure.
Mr. Chairman.
Follow-up?
And apparently also Idaho.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, we will do that. Thank you.
Okay. Committee, any further questions for Ms. Bruckner? Seeing none, appreciate your testimony, and we will take everything that you have there, and we'll try to see if we can't work that in for you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Mr. Moline, please. Didn't mean to wake you from your slumber on the first two bills there, sir. Yes, you were caught.
What were you doing last night?
Mr. Chairman, Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau, your previous comment is one of the disadvantages of being tall. You're a little more visible. Yeah, I was in deep thought on this bill, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau, sitting firmly in favor of this bill. I just recently moved up to the Bighorn Basin, and it was striking to me that moving up there, how many plates, especially on commercial vehicles, do have Idaho plates. Hopefully, we'll be able to incorporate some of those back. Trying to be brief, sitting in support of this bill, and I've also been asked by representative of the Wyoming wheat growers who could not be at this meeting to also lend their support to it. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would take any questions, both groups supporting this bill, take any questions you or the committee may have for me.
Okay. Committee, any questions for Mr. Moline? Interim. Is that right?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Apparently, we're thinking interim, so might have that discussion down the road as well. But
Mr. Chairman, we would be glad to be at the table. I'd like to have this bill go forward, but if you do take it to the interim, I know I can speak for Farm Bureau, we'll be at the table to be part of the discussion.
appreciate it. Thank you very much, Brett. Appreciate your pithy comments. Any further public testimony? County Commissioners, Mr. Russell.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jonathan Russell, Wyoming County Commissioners Association. We would be in favor of this going into the interim as well. I'd like to be a part of it also.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Russell. Ms. Little.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Kelly Little with the Associated General Contractors of Wyoming. As it stands, AGC is in support of this bill. We're with the recognition that it could be impactful to county budgets. That would be infrastructure funding to put on the ground for contractors to do. So that balance is definitely in our forethought. And we would be supportive of talking about this over the interim as well.
Okay. Committee? Seeing nothing? Thank you, Ms. Little. Anybody else? Once, twice, do we have the individual from Joel?
You have Joel Shell on. He signed up to provide general comment or information.
Is
I
he-
don't know if
is he
wishes
still
to
on?
Testify, he is on.
All right, let's go ahead and let him in, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Joel, please, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Joel Shell. I'm the treasurer in Commerce County. I would also ditto the interim remark.
The Treasurers Association does not have a stand on this bill, but we're not sure that the price point is right, Mr. Chairman. If you remember when we worked the permanent lightweight trailer plates, we did work that in the interim, and we batted around that price point, the $350 price point, quite a bit. So with this one, those were plates that averaged $13 a registration. This, we're talking about plates that average between $85 for regular plate and $210 for a commercial plate. So the $350 price point, I think we need to work. And we also have some concerns about the stricken language on page 3, lines 5 through 7, about what happens when somebody transfers a plate. So those are things we'd love to discuss in the interim, and hope you move forward with it in that regard, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shell. Appreciate your time there. Committee, with the overwhelming request here, I sense there is a motion here from Representative Wiley.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Wiley.
I'd like to make a motion to table this bill until interim.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Geringer. Motion is to table indefinitely. That is a non-debatable motion. Committee, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. That motion passes with a whopping 2 people voting on this committee. With that, our business is done. We will see you all back here Thursday.